Hi, Ashley here, and I brought the husband.
That's me.
This is Neil. This is the husband, and he is joining me for this video because we are focusing. They still call them videos, right? They do, yeah. I had to think about that for a second. One of my kids brought me a VHS the other day, and that was a whole new trip. And so I think I'm right here. So I'm like second guessing technology. All of a sudden. Anywho, I have Neil here with me because today we want to talk to the fathers or the wives of fathers. And we want to talk to the roles of dads and how that might have shifted or been affected by the pandemic, because we've definitely gone through some big changes.
Yeah.
During the pandemic.
Been a big deal.
It's been a really big deal. We've gone through a lot of changes in a lot of really, really positive ways and a couple of hard ways.
We always have lessons.
Yeah, we always have lessons. But we've gone through some really good, really fun stuff too. So we are going to share that with you today. So I'm going to start off by talking about the key principles and practices in fathering. As a dad, there are specific roles that are most often filled. Every family looks different. Not every family has the same balance of responsibilities, or gender roles can be a little bit different. I know they kind of are in our family.
But we're just dynamic. I mean, we change with whatever each other's needs are.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important for our family, is adapting to however someone feels or whatever we're experiencing that day. We both feel like we're co-equals. I mean, that's the point.
Very, very much so. And I mentioned to you guys in the mothering video about how I've had a lot of really difficult health challenges, and Neil has always just really stepped up and taken on a lot of roles that would be traditionally considered, female roles in our family. And, but I want to talk to you about kind of the traditional quintessential dad roles or dad jobs. Let's call them dad jobs. The first one is to partner, to make sure that we are on the same page, that there's communication going on, that I always feel backed up and supported. And let me tell you what, with all of a sudden having 5 kids at home all the time, like literally, I can probably count the times that we have left our property in the last 4 months as a family on one hand.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. With the exception of when we had to go stay in a hotel for a few days because our kitchen flooded.
Yeah.
That was really, really fun. But that partnership, his primary responsibility is to partner with me and to make sure that I'm good and that I'm taken care of and that I feel supported, and that if I need anything, any kind of support or assistance, he's always there for me.
And sometimes that looks like me just taking whatever kid is having the hardest time, and they come into the office while I'm sitting there working, and they sit in a chair and they do their homework or whatever they're supposed to be doing right there in that chair. And so they're in the office and they're separated from everything else. I make sure Ashley feels like she's supported and that I'm partnering with her by taking on that responsibility since I'm home. And it really, in that situation, it really doesn't take any extra effort on my part. It's just part of guiding the child and saying, hey, you need some time apart. Go ahead and have a seat. And that gives Ashley a load off of her mind.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the crazy to a minimum.
If you can.
If we can, right? The second parental father responsibility that I wanted to point out is to be present. So Neil, what has it looked like for you to be present during the pandemic?
To me, being present is, actually being there, paying attention to what the kids are saying, seeing what their challenges are. Hey, how's homeschooling going? Hey, what did you learn today? Even in the morning, planning out their day with them. Hey, what's on your agenda? What are you going to do today? Talking with them, not just about homeschooling, but hey, what chores, what fun things, what games, that sort of thing, involving them and saying, hey, I'm listening to you. But it's more than just saying you're listening. It's asking them questions afterwards and making sure that what they told you at the beginning is what they did or why they didn't do it. So I think that's kind of what it looks like to me. There's a lot of guys that, they are working from home, and it's really easy to have that time sucked away.
Kids are a time suck.
Well, and it's not just the kids, it's the job. It's the job saying, hey, we need this or whatever at all times of hours. I mean, we live in a connected world. I'm an IT manager. I understand about things breaking and whatever else, but with ever-present email and home office and whatever else, it's really easy to just get involved in something and get time sucked away from you and not being there for your family. So I think part of being present is during this time, I've said, this is the time of day I start. And when my time comes to the end, whether it be 3:30 or 5:30 or whatever time that is that I've put in my 8 hours, I say, I'm done. And I put down my phone and I log off and I just disconnect and I say, this is my family time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, so at the beginning of all of this, I was really nervous about him working from home just because I was so afraid that he wasn't going to be able to give ample time to his job and then he was going to get in trouble or something was going to fall through the cracks. Or I was so worried about him doing his job that I was afraid to let the kids interact with him, or I was afraid to bug him or to ask for help, and trying to get so many kids up on
a little bit of a wreck.
I was a little bit of a wreck, and trying to get so many kids up on technology at the same time, like, was really scary and hard for me. And because we just kept having all these bumps and a laptop wouldn't charge and, somebody's internet wasn't working and it was just happening. And it was, I said a lot of swears. I think there was one day that I said so many swears and I bust into his office and I just dropped a whole bunch of swears. And I had no idea he was on a conference call with a vendor for his corporation.
I was on mute, so it wasn't terrible, but it was distracting.
Oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed. But yeah, so and all it took was us having a really great conversation and discussing what I was feeling, what I was experiencing, and just how overwhelmed I was. And he was like, oh, well, I can be more present. Do you want me to come out at 55 after on every hour for 5 minutes and just make sure nobody's having tech issues or, and then let's do lunch together every day. And I can start earlier and then I can be done earlier if you want. So then I can be done by 2 or 3 every day. And all it took was me asking the questions before it was
if you ask for the needs, they get communicated. So partly that was my fault as well. I could have said, hey, Ashley, what do you need?
You seem to be freaking out. But
going a little nuts.
But it's been really cool. And I think it's been helpful that this pandemic is such a big thing and that it's such a global thing. And so it's been easy to say, it's okay for you to be more present with us, even while you're working from home, because it's a freaking pandemic. And I think everyone in your office was kind of like that. Everybody understood each other, understood that all of a sudden everybody's, working from home. I went into his office one day and he had video conferencing up. And one of the guys like, I'll be right back. I have to go wipe a kid's butt or something.
Yeah.
Because they're all dads.
Yeah. And that's what it's really about. I mean, we all have these same struggles and we're all working from home. And I mean, honestly, I look at this pandemic kind of as a blessing. I mean, these dads, if they didn't know before, really know what their wives experience on a day-to-day basis and the circus that they put up with and the demands of the kids. Mm-hmm. And that ability to be present and knowledgeable, if they choose to pay attention, is incredibly important because it shows that they're supporting their wives and they understand. And I really hope that there's a large number of men that haven't just, locked themselves in the office and say, hey, it's my time to work. Bye. I hope that's not been the case. I hope they've really been taking that opportunity to be present with their kids and show their kids that affection and that love that they have the ability to fill that role and partner with their wives.
Yeah, hopefully. But it's hard because it's such a stressful time and everybody copes with things differently.
They do.
So it's kind of hard. So the third thing, the third role, the third responsibility is to provide. And this is kind of an interesting, I think, thing. It's been an interesting thing for us. So one thing to know about Neil and I is when we got married, I already had 2 kids. So my oldest she was 2.5 half when we got married. Or no, she just turned 3. She just barely turned 3. So my oldest was 3. And then my second oldest, he had just turned 1 when we got married. And so I literally had a toddler and a baby. And Neil you'd never had to
Instant family.
instant family. And he'd been working this adequate job for a bachelor and for supporting the bachelor lifestyle. He drove a brand new car that was beautiful. The first time I saw it, I looked at it and I said, my kids are going to ruin the interior of this. Like I literally said that.
And they did.
And they did. And so learning, so he's had to go from, we never started at a level financially where we only had to provide for one person and then 2 people and then eventually a third and then eventually a fourth. Like he chomped off all 3 of us, like having to financially provide for us. And luckily I had a career. Not luckily, I was very blessed. I had a career that made some money. It wasn't great money. It was retail. I was a retail manager when we got married. And so I had a job, but I developed really significant health issues about a year after we were married, a year and a half.
You were pregnant with Summer.
Yeah. When my back injury happened. And so he has been mostly supporting us financially ever since. I've had little jobs that I've done, or I've run 3 different businesses from home that bring in, enough to help pay the bills. But he has really been the breadwinner in our family. And it's been difficult and it's been scary. And my money, the income from my business pretty much stopped when COVID started going down because of supply issues and time issues, because I had to homeschool my kids all of a sudden. And so, so we went through some hard times and we really appreciated the stimulus package. But there's been times where we've had to call the mortgage company and be like, hey,
we have a situation.
Because my wife can't work. Like she can't run her business and educate the kids. And they were really amazing and worked well with us. And how did you deal with that pressure to provide? Or how have you dealt with that over the last few months?
I have felt blessed since the first time that when Ashley did have to go on bed rest while she was pregnant with our first daughter together. That right as we were looking at her going back to work and saying, how are we going to make this work? I happened to get a raise. And that was completely unexpected. But it was enough that we were able to go to Ashley. I was able to come to Ashley and say, we can cut a few things out of the budget and you cannot work. And we've always tried to make that a general goal, that Ashley doesn't have to work to make the ends meet.
So I really like working, but
she's passionate about what she does.
I bit off a lot when I had 5 kids. So I'm realistic and I own up to my responsibility.
Yeah. And her working has never actually been about the money. It's about the passion and the things that she does. Yeah. The thing that she enjoys. And that's why it's been 3 different businesses is she's moving interests.
I'm an entrepreneur. I just love it.
But during this pandemic, it's been hard because it's been stressful. There's a lot of stress saying, hey, you need to make sure that not only you're providing for your family, but you need to make sure that the ends are meeting and that all of those needs are being met. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't been easy, but I think there's a role for faith there. I think there's a role for prayer. I think that if you counsel together as a couple and you talk about what those needs are and you plan for them, and you use both your prayer and your intellect, and I think you can find solutions.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I've been the most surprised about during this whole pandemic is I will openly admit that I used to have a problem spending money, compulsively buying things that I didn't need or need to spend money on. And a lot of that was fast food, or I'd run into town to ship a package or do something. And I'd be like, oh, I want to go see what's good at the grocery store. And I'd go in to just get, a couple things, and I'd walk out $40, $50, $60 later. And that's not a problem if you are making a big enough salary and you plan on eating everything that you buy, and it's only happening every once in a while, but it was happening multiple times a week, and on top of my big grocery shopping. So it was definitely compiling, I feel like, to the financial stress for sure, before the pandemic happened. And once the pandemic happened, it was like, well, I don't really want to go to the store so much. And
That helped. If you don't go to the store, you can't really spend that much money at it.
Mm-hmm. And people in our town don't. It's not very common to see someone wearing a mask in different stores and businesses, and so that's made me feel a little unsafe or insecure about shopping locally. And so those factors have really just squelched my shopping addiction. Let's just say that. I mean, it's grocery shopping addiction, but I would say it was a compulsion. Absolutely. That kept me going and that made me feel good. And if I was having a bad day, I'd go to the soda shop, and then I'd go to the burger shop and the burger, the drive-in, and down, a couple thousand calories and feel better all of a sudden. And not doing that anymore, not realizing that I didn't need to do that, and being home with my family and taking the time off of work so that I could cook meals and prepare food. Like, we have saved so much money. It's ridiculous. I would say that our monthly expenses, our monthly outgo has probably decreased, I think, at least by $500 to $600 a month just on fast food or groceries. That sounds about right, looking at the budget. So, I mean, and I feel like that has helped me support you to be able to provide to our family better. Like, that's a way that I can support you as a provider, by making sure that any money that I do spend is spent with intention, that I have a meal plan, that I have things in place so that we're not going to be wasting a bunch of food. And so that I'm not just buying food to fill a void.
And that's the thing, is people sometimes look at budgets as being restrictive. But that's not what they're meant to be. They're meant to be a tool for communication and saying, this is what I need to spend, or this is what needs to be spent on X. It gives you an opportunity to truly take care of your family and plan those expenses, because when you can do that and you have good communication, I feel like things are less stressful around money. You're both aware of whatever scarcity or plenty there might be.
And we've been pretty avid budgeters for the last couple of years. And part of that is, as part of my marriage and family studies program, I've had to take classes teaching me about money management and financial resource management in households, so that if I have a client come to me when I'm a therapist who has, money anxiety or, financial issues that are causing a lot of stress, I can counsel and I can help them through that issue and be able to empathize with them. And so because of that, we've actually been avid, budgeters, but my husband will budget, or I'll budget. I actually usually am the one that does budget, but I'll budget like $200 a month for fast food. And then before I know it, I've spent like way more than that and way more on groceries. And so this pandemic has been really a true blessing, because it's caused me to curb that out of control spending and to find different ways to deal with my problems than to go and buy fast food and groceries. All right. So the last one that I want to focus on is to protect. And that's a really interesting one, given the state that we're in right now. And I feel like we've had to kind of make some hard decisions because of the situation right now and with COVID and everything. How do you feel like your role to protect us and your family has been affected by the pandemic?
I worked in healthcare. I just recently changed jobs. But the industry that I was in dealt with senior folks, and they were
assisted living facilities. So the kind of stuff you keep seeing on the news about these outbreaks in these facilities, that's what the company he just left.
And luckily, my company had some very good policies about not letting what they referred to as visitors into the care facilities, which the IT folk were. They were visitors. If we didn't need to go into a building, we didn't. And we were very careful about who went in. And, they wore gowns and they wore gloves and they wore face shields and they wore face masks. And that was part of me in my role as an IT manager, making sure that my people that worked for me were taken care of and protected, because in turn, I am protecting myself and protecting my family to make sure that we don't spread the virus, that we don't contract the virus from one of the facilities. Mm-hmm. But I think in addition to that, it's making sure that, hey, if we need something from the store, I'm going to wear a mask. I'm going to be there as briefly as possible and come back out. There's
right. It's been really interesting, and I think kind of difficult, because like I said before, like we've had to make some hard choices, but we've been really blessed that in the industry we're working in, like they took this so seriously that I didn't ever feel like there was a way you were really going to be exposed to it. I mean,
but the other thing is, I feel like protecting wise is we had to put down some hard rules with family.
With family, but luckily they all really understood.
Yeah, they respected those boundaries, which is really important for us.
Mm-hmm. And with social and church obligations as well. Mm-hmm. I think those were probably the hardest boundaries to set, just because not everybody is on the same page, mm-hmm. and not everybody understands. And I don't want to get out like the photo album of my now 14-year-old when she was on a ventilator for 8 days when she was born, because she was born with severe lung and heart issues. Like, I don't want to like pull out the photo album and be like, see, I here's my evidence that I have a high risk child.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have to.
No, there should be respect there. And I feel like we respect other people's decisions that don't necessarily have the highest concerns about this that we do, because we do have high risk individuals in our house, and we need mm-hmm. to make sure that we're taking care of them and considering them in our activities that we're doing.
Yeah. And I really do appreciate that. Like, if I need something from the store, like if I need something from the hardware store, which is not a really masky place these days, I can send you in, and you're gonna double mask, and you're gonna get in, and you're gonna get out, and then I don't have to deal with the anxiety. And you're very cautious. You don't touch your mask, you don't touch your face, you sanitize as soon as you get out to the car. So it's been like a whole different level of trying to protect your family.
Yeah, and the hardest part about that is it's just an unknown. I mean, it's an invisible virus. You don't know what you're contracting. So you don't know where it is. You can't see it. So there can be a lot of anxiety that can be produced by that. And that I think is another big thing about being a protector for the family, is the mental and emotional well-being of those in your family.
Absolutely. Well, when I've had hard times putting down boundaries, there have been a few times that I've been like, I've really struggled with it emotionally. And he's been right there for me, which has been wonderful. And he's been that voice of reason that's like, Ashley, come on. Like,
you are high risk. Ellie is high risk.
We have high risk kids. Like, the CDC said it's okay to be cautious. The state of Utah says that it's okay to be cautious. They said that high risk individuals should do this, and this. And so everything my intuition is telling me about how we need to be cautious, like I have all this validation and evidence, but sometimes other people's behavior doesn't correlate. No. And it's caused a lot of anxiety and stress for me, but you've been right there to help back me up and calm me down and make sure that
frankly,
I felt safe.
It's not just Ashley that's had that anxiety and that unsettling feelings, mm-hmm. those unsettling feelings about what's been going on. Mm-hmm. Our oldest two kids, they've struggled with this as well, because they want to go see their friends and they want to go back to school and they want to do things like that. Mm-hmm. And it's been difficult. And, them going to visit their biological father has been difficult for them as well. And the situation around mm-hmm. visiting and traveling, and they've had some anxiety over that. Right. And as part of a protector, it's really important to talk with them and help them understand that, it's not like the virus is going to jump out and get them, but if they're cautious and they're careful, then it's not a big deal. And helping them deal with those emotions that have the ability to traumatize them for the rest of their life.
For sure.
If we're not careful.
If we're not careful. And we're trying to be really, really careful. I really struggled when I was a teenager because my dad had leukemia. And that's actually where I originally developed obsessive compulsive disorder, was because of how stressful it was and how scared I was, because he had a bone marrow transplant. And I was just so scared that I was going to make him sick and that I was going to kill him. And it was a really stressful, 3 years. It wasn't even a short thing. That's like a long fought cancer. And at least it was back in the late 90s. So anyways, and our two biggest kids, they went to Arizona for a few weeks to visit their bio dad. And he called me. He made the decision after 3 weeks. He called me and he was like, they're not safe here. My coworkers are getting COVID. He works at a hospital, and he was like, my coworkers are getting COVID. We need to get him back home. And the next day, Neil drove, how many hundreds of miles was it round trip?
I don't remember.
700 miles round trip, 800 miles round trip to go meet him and pick up the kids and bring them back home, because you take protecting them very, very seriously. Yeah. And so
I take protecting all of my kids seriously. It's really, really important that, no one wants their kids to get sick. No one likes when their kids are sick. Mm-hmm. And I think the ability to support Ashley and be a protector for them and to be present, all of those things really weave together into what a father needs to be for their family, especially during this time that it's so difficult for all the families out there. I don't know of any family that hasn't been impacted by this and hasn't had some sort of struggle. Yeah. Whether it be death or whether it be being quarantined because they've been exposed to someone that's had COVID-19 or whatever it is. And all of those things work together. And it's really important for families to recognize that and support each other while we're going through this.
Absolutely. And I think that if we didn't have just some of those high-risk health issues in our household, I think we'd probably feel a little bit different about this whole situation. But because we do, that protective drive of yours, it's up here. And which, once again, though, that validates, what the impressions I'm getting. So I'm really grateful for that. So I would love to know, if you're willing to put into the comments how you or your husband is developing or growing or changing, what has his experience been like, or your experience been like during the pandemic. Do you feel like you've been able to become a more active parent? Do you feel like you've grown in your family life during the pandemic? I think that we've had a really cool period of opportunity, especially for the people that either got to work from home or, experienced unemployment for a little while. Just a different opportunity to spend more time with their family. And I do pray that everyone that has struggled with unemployment either has found a new job or, will find one soon, because we've been there before. We've been through that, and it's horrifying and difficult. And I pray that all the parents out there that need work can find it. But anyways, I think that's it. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with them tonight?
You said it best. You always do.
It's a gift I have. Anyways, so thank you for joining us as we discussed fatherhood and family life during the pandemic. And thank you very much.
Hey, you got this.
You got this.
Well, it's official. This project is wrapped. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see what's next from us, or check us out on Instagram. We'll be posting soon.